Last night, I got Root back to the table for the first time in, I don't know, the better part of a year and a half, maybe 2 years, to the point where I've had numerous people leave comments on some of my past videos asking if we've gotten rid of Root and questioning why we still have it in our collection, why it's on the list of games that I want to obsess over. So I thought I'd do a video, one talking about coming back to a fan favorite and a personal favorite, talking about why, about a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, we certainly had Root on the chopping block of games that could leave, and what the future looks like when it comes to Root coverage. I know, straight on to camera, this is not the most sophisticated piece of content out there, but listen, the long-form gameplay, close-up on cards, high-quality 6 camera angles that I'm doing for the other videos on this channel, they take a lot of time. I'm talking like 8 hours plus per video. So the Final Girl gameplays that I'm working on, you'll have to wait on those. For now, hit that like button, leave a comment, and hit the subscribe button so that I can continue making, well, this and everything else we do. Literally, you have no idea just how impactful it is when you all support our channel. So, last night. What happened last night? What was unique about last night? Well, nothing, really. It was one of our weekly Tuesday night gaming groups. Starts at 7 p.m., goes till about 10:30, sometimes 1 or 2 a.m., although that's only when I'm irresponsible and trying to play a game that, well, we shouldn't be trying to play, like 6-player Dune or starting Terraforming Mars at, well, 9 p.m., thinking we'll have it done before my bedtime. Last night was our Tuesday night gaming group, and I let the group know it was time to get a fan favorite, a classic, back to the table. And 3 out of the 4 people that played Root, I was one of the 4, had never played before. So this was a first venue into it. It was a first swing into this massive asymmetric head-to-head skirmish, point victory, race to win style game. A game that's insanely hard to describe and requires a gaming coach or someone who knows the game and the intricacies of it there at the table in order to play it effectively. We had Root on our chopping block. Absolutely. No doubt about it. And we had it on our chopping block for, well, the exact opposite reason of why we played it last night. For a long time, over the pandemic specifically, but then as I moved into a few different gaming friends and my wife, Shira, or my partner, girlfriend, friend at the time, I didn't have a big circle of people who were getting together playing games regularly. I didn't have a big circle of people who enjoyed Root specifically. They'd rather play some other tactical area control games or some larger campaign games like Kingdom Death or Zombicide. Or more strategic, less asymmetric, more strategic, more Euro-focused Terraforming Mars style experiences. Root just kind of fell into a venue of games that I enjoyed, but the people around me didn't enjoy as much. Along with that, well, about 2 years ago, the channel was making a pretty significant transition. We were moving into more and more crowdfunding coverage and forgetting a little bit more about the darlings that got us into the hobby in the first place, Root being one of those. Over the last year and a half, 2 years, I've compared a lot of things back to, well, this classic game. This, what I would argue, is now a established, evergreen, never going away style title. Compared it to it in the lens of asymmetry, in the lens of area control, skirmish, in the lens of games that have a race-to-win style mechanic with everyone playing their own side of the conversation, whether you're talking Merchants of the Dark Cove or Harrow County, coming from off-the-page games. I've said there's a lot of games that do Root, as if it's established kind of a genre of its own, and I guess in my gaming experience, in many ways, it has. But I also made a comment that I've been thinking about a lot in that video that we just did about a week ago, the 10 games I want to obsess over. And I mentioned the fact that while a lot of things have been like Root, nothing has been Root. And that got me thinking, like, yeah, I've played it at least 50 times. I've embarrassed myself on camera with rules mistakes in the past. I mean, that dice one was probably the most shocking, horrific thing I've ever done on this channel before. And it's been a long time since I've played it. So I thought, let's get it back to the table. And as of January, we now have a consistent Tuesday night gaming group here in Cleveland, Ohio. Totally not a plug for you to leave a comment down below and then send me an email letting me know who you are, maybe some reference social media and your phone number so I can add you to the WhatsApp group so you can join, come hang out at the studio and play some games. And that gaming group is focused on playing titles and playing games that we all enjoy, unlike what I've had in the past. In the past, I've had gaming groups focused around covering titles, new prototypes, new games that just arrived, whatever someone is learning and ready to teach, but that's not the case right now. Right now, we've played Dune Imperium so many times, they've stopped requesting it. We played Heat until 3 a.m. one day, and let's just say, the tread on my tires for that game is completely worn bare. I am bald, going bald. That's not the point of this conversation. I should get a hair growth specialist in here somewhere. I mean, my neck beard's perfect, but this little patch on the top of my head is lacking, to say the least. And so it was time for me to bring out another favorite. Yeah, we've played Terraforming Mars. Yeah, we've played Dune Imperium. Yeah, we've played Heat way too many times. They just played Fractured Sky the other week. And now it was time to bring out Root. And we had a great time. It's such a classic, such a approachable, accessible game as long as you're not learning it yourself. As long as you have someone who can teach, guide, run through the rules, and break down the operational flow. And yeah, there were still some rules mistakes we overlooked. I think the two biggest ones that we overlooked were how the, let's see here, which faction was it? The faction that's giving things to people. We had the Corvid Conspiracy, we had the Marquise de Cat, we had the Eerie Dynasty, and we had the Vagabond. How the Vagabond scores victory points, where instead of aiding once, you have to then aid twice and then aid 3 times. We missed that until late in the game, meaning that there was a little bit of additional points scored and some strategic choices made off of too few aids. And then the other significant thing that we missed specifically had to do with the Eerie Dynasty. There was at least one cycle where the player who was playing the Eerie forgot to put down a card in their timeline, thinking that they could just maintain their hierarchy or the order of operations without always adding to it. And those were minor things. They were fairly easily correctable, and it didn't keep me from winning the game. I mean, I still crushed them because they're weak and have never played Root before. I don't think teachers are supposed to win. I did feel a little bit guilty with the Corvid popping up, bursting, 3 or 4 of my tokens all at the same time, and scoring a good solid 15-point swing there towards the middle of the game. I felt a little bit bad about that, but everyone was able to play, enjoy, have a good time, and they're all universally compelled to come back and try out another faction or continue exploring the mechanics and the world and chaos that Root provides. It was a good reminder of why I fell in love with Root. It was a good reminder of just how compelling and how excellent this game is. So why do we still have it in our collection? Why hasn't it been sold? Well, for the exact opposite reason, like I said, of why we played it last night. For a long time, I was focused on covering new things. I was in a gaming group that didn't heavily or readily play Root, and I didn't play very many solo games myself. While I enjoyed them whenever I sat down to do them, I never really found the time to prioritize them. Well, this season of the channel and this season of my life has all of those things inverted. We have a gaming group, ready and willing to play a game multiple times, compelled by a game like Root, and at least enough of them enjoyed it that we can continue getting it to the table regularly. Hopefully enough that they then, like Dune, stop requesting that it is played. That's at least 20 plays deep, though, and with the chaos and the randomization that Root provides, it could be significantly more. And our gaming group's fairly large. On a given night, we have anywhere from 8 to 10 people, and then on some of the slower nights, we might only have 4 or 5. And we have about 35 people in our WhatsApp chat, and hopefully after this video, we'll have a few more. So we always have people to play with. We're focused on replaying and continuing to support games that we all love, and we're not concerned about producing content here on the channel. Although I would love to get a 6-player filmed in our brand new studio space, it's not the immediate priority. Some of the things that I have, some of the takeaways when it comes to getting Root back to the table, some of the things that reminded me of just how charming this game is. One, there are some factions that are way more complicated than other factions when it comes to this game. And yeah, there's some of the ones that I'm less familiar with. I haven't played them as often, but I really struggle with how the Lizardfolk, for instance, move and the mechanics around them, or the Woodland Alliance are difficult for me to teach and play. I also found myself shying away from the two new factions, the Badgers and the Rats. Forget their exact official names. Let's see here. The Marauders expansion. And that's primarily because I find the Rats to be a less charming version of some of the other big coin-style factions, big war army factions that are in the board, or in the game. And for new players, I think that the Marquise de Cat or the Eerie Dynasty are probably two of the most accessible, most teachable, and most responsible factions to play. But then on top of that, I actually find the Iron Clan, or whatever the Badgers are, to probably be my least favorite faction, even behind things like the Lizards, which are just sort of confusing and chaotic. The Corvid felt a little OP in their own unique way. I think you have to learn the dynamic of the game significantly before you actually dive in and play. And I think for future gameplays, I think when we dive back into this, we'll try to stick to the same core 4 or 5 factions that we had in order to continue running, exploring, and understanding the mechanics of everyone else at the table. I mean, the end result for all 3 players was that they enjoyed it and they're interested in playing again, but they had no idea what other players were doing, even after a fairly significant teach and everyone walking through their turns with every stage of the game. So, it's classic Root. You need someone to coach and guide. You probably shouldn't give everyone every option right from the beginning. We didn't mix in any of the Hirelings expansion to start with, and now that we have a established version of Root, a established framework for getting it to the table, I think, in hindsight, the most responsible way to teach and play is probably just with the core. Start with that first solid box and then continue expanding beyond that. If you want, you can swap out maybe the Vagabond or swap out the Woodland Alliance for another faction, but each faction in that core game teaches you some unique, separate mechanic for how the operation of all future factions flow. Like, for instance, the Woodland Alliance I compare to the Lizard Cult and the Corvid, right? They're popping up. They're kind of surprise factions. They're able to do weird things. We talk about the Eerie Dynasty. I also am looking at the Iron Badgers, whatever that clan name is called. I'm thinking also through factions like the Moles, for instance. Big, heavy, structural units that want to set up their government, set up their system of law, and the operational order that they get throughout the course of the game increases until it doesn't. When I think about the Marquise de Cat, I think about factions such as the Rats, or what are the other ones that we're talking about here? I don't really know of a good comparison to the Otters. Marquise de Cat is not quite that. The Otters are their own unique system unto themselves, but I always have something to compare back to if I taught the players from the beginning around the core game. So, those are my major takeaways from diving back into Root again in 2 years. It's brilliant. It makes all the sense in the world why I and many others have fallen deeply, emphatically in love with it. I'm glad that we're diving back into it now. And I'm glad that it hasn't left my collection. Although, responsibly, for about 2 years there, it should have, because it wasn't hitting the table. And, I know, my collection's a bad example of this, but the reality is you should probably move on from games that aren't getting to the table often enough to merit having them in your collection. You can always get them back. Lastly, I'm really excited to dive into the solo version of Root. I have some videos planned around head-to-head combats or big giant skirmishes that require me to know the game very well and also know the solo system extremely well. Those will be coming down the line. I'm excited to start filming them. I'll probably do the first 2 or 3 learning sessions over on Patreon. That's my hope. We're still figuring out and revamping exactly the content that's going to be over there on that channel, but we have a game plan and we are building in that direction. So, I wanted to film a quick little video talking about my experience replaying Root, revisiting Root, teaching Root to a brand new group of players after 2 years, at least. Maybe a little bit less. After a 2-year hiatus of not playing it at all. And I also wanted to address those few comments that kept popping up saying, didn't you sell this? Hasn't this been out of your collection for some time? And the answer is yes, if I was a responsible game owner and sold things. In reality, no, because selling things is a logistic nightmare, and without Adderall, I don't know how to do it. And with Adderall, it still takes so much time. It's very difficult. So, help, possibly? Yeah, that's the message. That's this whole, I wanted to put a video, I'm trying to put more videos out. I'm trying to film more, I'm trying to have more conversations, but it takes so long to edit. Like, I have individual shots of every single one of these cards and this board here. It takes so long to edit those big videos. So this is quick. I can do this every day until you start unsubscribing to videos like this, and then I have to stop it because well, that will ruin everything else we're doing. Okay, thanks for watching. Thanks for being here. This has been an addled reflection on my history and relationship with a game that I and you love. We'll see you later. Bye. Wait, remember, whatever the case, whatever you do, remember to do the important thing. Always teach Root as if you've never played it before. Always assume you're going to make mistakes. Always, if you teach the game, always win. That's the lesson from last night. If you teach the game, you have a responsibility to crush those around you because they deserve the bitter taste of defeat. They should have learned the rules themselves. Why are they relying on you? They know you're unreliable. That got personal.